keep it all that one. So our next speaker is not new here. I think this is his third time. And Coach Jay is a registered emergency nurse specialist. He's also a flight nurse paramedic. He's also a certified educator and instructor, and a certified Ironman coach and Training Peaks triathlon coach. He's also a FitQ triathlon coach and a FitQ president from 2017 to 2019. He's also a triathlon race organizer and director. He's a 4 times Ironman finisher and 9 times 70.3 finisher. He's also a podium finisher in IM 70.3 Davao and in Subic. He's also 70.3 Ironman World Championship qualifier and finisher in 2019. And also Ironman World Championship finisher in Kona in 2018. So guys, to discuss the topic about dehydration and hydration, let's all welcome back Coach Jaynald Canaria. Go ahead, Coach.
Thank you very much, Press Walk. I know this is my third time. I know you've been tired of reading my resume or introduction. Thank you very much for inviting me over again, once again, for and on behalf of the FitQ. Let me just stop share. Thank you very much for inviting me, to all the listeners, from all in the Middle East as well as in the Philippines. We also have listeners from Australia, from USA, and from Canada. Pleasant good day, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So just let me share my slide. Okay, so thank you very much once again. Welcome to this FitQ TRITALK episode 7. I'll be discussing about dehydration and overhydration in triathlon. The fourth discipline in triathlon sport is about nutrition and hydration. I'll be discussing some subtopics about hydration. Okay, dehydration and overhydration in triathlon. This is the main topic for today. So what are the objectives the objectives of this presentation? We will discuss the functions and role of water in the body. Also in particular, the role in the health and performance of an athlete. Identify the important electrolytes affecting athletes' performance in training and racing. I'll give you a tip as well on how to calculate sweat rate. What is the importance of sweat rate calculation? You'll be able to find out how much fluid are you going to drink or replace or put in your body during training, and most important, during racing. And last objective, we will differentiate dehydration and overhydration, or what we call the hyponatremia. So these are the basic functions of water in the body. So I'll just go through it. It regulates body temperature, it protects the organs and tissues, help prevents constipation, dissolve minerals and other nutrients to make them accessible to the body, lubricate joints, carries nutrients and oxygen to the cells. These are the basic functions or the role functions of water in the body. But I want to put attention on the roles of water for us athletes or endurance athletes, the triathletes, in terms of athletes' health and performance. So you may be, in this presentation, you may find some terminologies, technical terminologies that I cannot escape away from, but rather what will I do? I'll try to explain it in simplest term for everybody to understand. Perhaps I will just incorporate it in a scenario or racing to better understand it. If you want to have a copy of my presentation, please just message me so to get the details. Okay, roles of water in athletes' health and performance. First one, removes lactic acid during active training if athlete is fully hydrated. You know, during training, especially if you're doing a hard training wherein you are in anaerobic state, usually anaerobic state is without oxygen or hard training session, there will be some conversion, chemical conversion that will happen. Because during active training, our body relies mainly on carbohydrates as a source, as a fuel of source or energy. So during this anaerobic state, there will be conversion of the carbohydrates to pyruvate, and that will be used for energy. That will be used for energy as a source of energy. And this conversion happens inside the cell. We call it the cytosol. The cytosol is the liquid part of a human cell. So therefore, if you are dehydrated or less water in the cells, this conversion of carbohydrates into pyruvate to be used as energy will not happen. Otherwise, it will become, there will be a formation of lactic acid. Actually, it's more on hydrogen ions. Then from there, it will affect your performance. So at the end of the day, water removes lactic acid during active training if athlete is fully hydrated. Okay, main component of in the blood that metabolize and transport carbohydrates and proteins. Simple explanation to this. In the blood, there is such thing we call it plasma, right? Plasma is the liquid portion of the blood. It's the liquid content of the blood, wherein 55% of the blood content is water. So if the athlete is dehydrated, so how can the carbohydrates and proteins be transported to the body if the patient is, or if the athlete is dehydrated? So it won't happen. Muscle glycogen, next one, muscle glycogen holds water when fully hydrated. We have limited source of glycogen in our body, right? But in the muscles, we have an abundant source as well. But the only time that you can utilize those muscle glycogen is if the muscles is fully hydrated. Okay? Dissipates heat through evaporation, thereby cooling the body and maintaining core body temperature. So water helps in removing or dissipating heat through evaporation so that you will not heat up. So these are the important rules of water in athletes' health and performance. Okay? Method to monitor hydration status. There are two basic methods, or we call it available methods that we can use just to monitor our hydration status on a daily basis. One, weighing scale. All you need to do is monitor your weight before and after exercise, whether you're losing more water, how much ml, how much fluid do you lose, right, after the exercise. So it's one method on monitoring hydration status. Another one is the color of your urine. I was just discussing about heat stroke the other day, and color of the urine is one parameter to monitor whether we are teaching even to the workers, even to the ordinary people. One way to monitor whether you are hydrated or dehydrated, especially during the summer, here in Qatar, in the Middle East, it's summer already, reaching up to 40+ degrees. So just the color of your urine. As you can see here, there are three colors only: the very clear, the mid-clear, and the not so clear. The very clear, maybe you are hydrated, maybe not. I will explain why. It may be clear, the interpretation for us as, oh, my urine is good. How many of you during racing or during training who looks into the color of your urine? I do, especially in long distance triathlon. I am looking at the color of my urine. I just don't pee and do nothing. I am looking at the color of my urine, because this clear color means two things for me. Yes, I may be hydrated, or I may be suffering from hyponatremia or overhydration. I'll explain to you later. Next one is the middle, and if you see this one in your urine, especially when you are racing or training, it's a signal already. You need to drink more water. Without any question, you need to drink more water, unless you have some urinary tract infection. So anyway, I'm just mentioning it. But in actual racing and training, if you see the color of your urine is like this, you are dehydrated already. So you need to monitor the color of your urine, not just during on daily, but especially most importantly in training and on race day. Please take note of this. Okay, water gain versus water loss, balancing water gain and water loss. Water gain, everybody knows, you can gain water from all the electrolytes, the fluids that you are drinking. But I want to focus more on the water loss, or how do we lose water? As mentioned, fluid loss can be lost by a sweat, right? In the skin by a sweating, which is good, right? Later I'll discuss metabolism. Don't you know that even when you are eating or hydrating and eating your nutrition, eating your food, you are losing water in the sense of oxidation of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats during metabolism? And another one, breathing. Just merely breathing right now on your chair, we are losing water. What more if we are exercising? What more if you're doing your VO2 max? What more, just like what Joyette said, she was telling us that she will know whether she's catching up her breath during run. So meaning the faster you breathe, the more water you lose. And another one is body waste through urine and feces. Okay. I just want to share you this so you will have an idea that in an Ironman race, the average sweat rate during bike is 0.81 liters per hour. So that's around 800 ml. That's 0.81 liters. That's 810 ml average in Ironman Hawaii. And on run, the average sweat rate is 1.2 or 1.02 liters per hour, ranging from 0.4 to 1.8 liter. Now I understand, before, I'm trying to remember the only race that I could remember that they monitor our weight before and after the race was when I raced in Kona, Hawaii, in the Ironman World Championship. Now I'm not surprised how come they have these numbers that I am presenting to you right now. So in Ironman race in Kona, Hawaii, average sweat rate during the bike is 800 ml, if I may translate it to ml. And on the run, it's 1.02 liters per hour. So what does it mean? Now you will understand before you will actually know your specific sweat rate, that at least in a hot and humid environment, I need to drink more than 500 ml of water just to replace the fluids. Okay, I'll give you some idea how to catch this, but these numbers, just like what I said, now I understand how come they're weighing us before and after the race. Now they have their own statistics. They have been doing this for the last 41 years, so this is an accurate data. I just forgot to ask how many kilograms did I lose when they weigh me after my race. But anyway, this is for your reference. Okay. Some of the electrolytes, Na, Mg, Ca, K. I'm sure you have seen this. You may not be able to. Some of you may not be aware what is the meaning, but I'll just give you some idea. Na stands for sodium. Sodium is the main electrolytes, most important electrolytes during racing and training. One of its role, key function, is to regulate the body's fluid balance. So it says here, an athlete can lose between 115 to to 2,300 milligram of sodium content per liter of sweat. Before, in the earlier slide, this one is the average sweat rate, how many liters, right? Here is the sodium content per liter. So it gives us an idea now. If I'm losing, for example, most likely, if I'll be racing in a hot weather, in a hot course, like in Ironman, Subic, Davao, Vietnam, or somewhere in the Middle East, we are losing water. We will be losing sodium, regardless how much it will be, but the range is from 115 to 2,300 milligram of sodium content in each liter or 1 liter of sweat. Okay, so give us an idea now. Do I need a sodium supplement during my race, especially in a hot, humid course? My answer is yes. Whether you need, because especially if you're doing half Ironman or full Ironman distance, maybe it's okay if you will be doing the sprint distance or the Olympic distance, but if you will be racing for more than 3 hours, right, you'll be losing too many sodium content or other electrolytes. Like the Mg, which is the magnesium like helps in muscle relaxation. Calcium, Ca stands for calcium, aids in muscular contraction, and potassium controls fluid and electrolyte balance. So I don't know whether right now you are familiar or have you seen this signs? Where do you usually see the signs? Salt stick. I'm not promoting salt stick, but I'm just giving an example to you that these are the contents of a salt stick tub. In the salt stick tub, usually one tablet contains about 200 milligram of sodium only, right? In hot, humid course, having said, you can lose from 115 to 2,300 milligram of sodium. So if salt stick tub is equivalent to 200 milligram, so how many tablets can you incorporate in your hydration during racing? 1, 2 tablets, 3 tablets, up to 600, up to 4 tablets, 800 milligrams in equivalent. Okay, and other source or supplement of sodium. Okay, so what are the factors affecting daily hydration and sodium needs? There are so many factors affecting daily hydration and sodium needs. In sports, apparently in sports, we lose water during sweating and respiration, right? Even in swimming, what they're telling me, Coach Jay, do we lose water when we are swimming? In Europe, some of you are racing in colder environment, right? Colder race in Europe. Yes. Remember on my few slides before, we also lose water. You may be able to escape with the evaporation thing, wherein you're losing water through sweating, but you will still lose water via breathing. So I'm just giving you an example, just a simple answer, whether it is cold, or even in running, when you're running, it is cold, I'm not sweating, right? But you are breathing, wherein you're losing water still. Okay, in relation to cooler environment reduce the need for evaporative cooling, but still there are fluid loss during respiration or breathing. Heat acclimatization and altitude. You know, the heat acclimatization, what is the importance of having or doing acclimatization before your race day, before your big day? Some recommend start acclimatizing minimum of 14 days before the race day, and some they're recommending you need to come early on the race day to acclimatize, especially if you're coming from a hot, cold environment and you will be racing in a hot race course. You need to be there, right, earlier in order to acclimatize. So the good thing with acclimatization, right, it's not only not only with your resistance, but in terms of electrolytes, acclimatization helps in reducing sodium concentration in the sweat. That's the benefits of having good acclimatization. Okay, even in altitude, it says there that living and training or racing in an altitude more than 2,500 meters have increased fluid losses not associated with exercise. So what does it mean to us? Some of you are racing in Europe or Middle East, especially in Europe or even in Asia, right? Elevation, you need to check the bike course. What is the elevation of the bike leg? So meaning to say here, if it is too high and it's more than 2,500, then you need to make adjustment on your fluids. So this is the message we're trying to get here. Fitness level. They said, and the next one is the fitness level. They said some athletes, the benefits of fit athlete is they will sweat a lot. Sweating is our defense mechanism, right? When you sweat more, the study shows that athletes sweat easily and more than a regular person. So meaning, this is evaporative cooling. This is my defense mechanism for me to overheat. So if you sweat earlier or as faster, meaning your fitness level is more higher. Skin and clothing in race course on a race day, I myself, for my athletes, I encourage them to wear light clothing materials, right? So for the race on race day. Weight, next one is the weight, gender, and age. They said obesity can lose percentage of water as low as 4%. Somehow in the gender, just like what Joyette said, Coach Joyette said, women have more activated sweat glands than men, but they sweat less profusely. I say again, women have more heat-activated sweat glands than men, but they sweat less profusely. Okay? How about the older athletes in terms of age? Older athletes may have an age-related blunting that reduces the sensitivity to thirst. So because of age factor, their thirst mechanism for those, especially for 50 plus, 60 plus and above, their thirst mechanism is reduced. So therefore, they will not feel thirsty, which will let them prone to dehydration. Okay? So again, these are the factors affecting the daily hydration, the sports, the environment, the heat acclimatization, the fitness level, the skin and clothing, even the age, weight, and gender. Okay, fluid and electrolytes. So have you ever checked the fluid contents or the electrolyte contents of what you're drinking, especially the sports nutrition drink? There are some recommendations here. I'll just share it to you. The fluid and electrolyte guidelines before the race, during the race, and after the race. So here it says here on the table below, there are some fluid recommendation. How many fluids, how many ml do you need to drink? For example, just 2 hours before, you need to drink from 3 to 5 ml per kilogram. Sodium intake, you need to take at least salty foods or anyone sports drink with 450 to 1,100 milligram of sodium contents. But take note of this, race or during the race, based on sweat loss, right? Maximum absorption is 32 ounce liter per hour or 1 liter per hour. Sodium content, I'm emphasizing this, 500 to 700 milligrams per liter. So if your sweat rate is more than 1 liter per hour, so it is safe for you to drink how many salt stick tubs? 3 in an hour, because one salt stick tablet is equivalent to 200 milligrams. So the recommendation is 500 to 700 milligrams. So even after the race, to avoid dehydration, so there's also a specific recommendation in terms of fluid intake. It's a 1.5 liter per kilogram per body loss. That is your recommendation to replenish back the water or the fluids you lost in your body. And in terms of sodium, just consume foods and fluids. Usually what I do, I'm just drinking Gatorade after the race. If I even have a salt stick remaining that I was not able to drink or consume during the race, I'm even drinking it after the race. So to ensure that my sodium content, my fluid and electrolytes are on the top and within the acceptable, so that I will recover faster. Okay, Coach B, are you still there? Anyway, I will continue if we don't have any questions.
Yes, Coach Jay.
So, should I continue before I will discuss the sweat rate calculator?
Yes, please. So far, so good.
Okay,
We can have the questions after the sweat rate calculator.
Okay, so I want everybody to, if you can have your pencil and pen and paper, I'll just give you a basic one. You can find this anywhere on the YouTube or internet, but at the end, it's an actual application, because I know already my sweat rate, but just to give you an idea that sweat rate calculation determines how much fluid that an athlete should consume during a training session or especially during a race, by calculating the amount of fluid that is expelled to sweat during exercise. So the message here, you should be doing this before the race day, just to give you an idea, okay? So I know already my sweat rate, but still I did it this morning, okay? So these are the elements: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 elements to consider in order to know your sweat rate. Okay, first, you need to measure your body weight before the exercise, right? I'm assuming I'm 71 kilograms. I just this morning. So I did an hour bike, assuming I did an hour bike, right? Around 60% of my threshold, it's but an average of 34.5 degrees centigrade this morning. So I did the sweat rate test. The advisable one is you do your sweat rate test on a moderate effort, like zone 3 effort. And the temperature depends on your race course, because it will still vary, or it varies, depends upon the type of race course, whether it's cold or not that cold, humid and hot environment, and super hot. So now, for example, if I'll be racing in Davao or in Subic or in Vietnam or in Malaysia or in Southeast Asia, the actual temperature this morning when I did the sweat test was around 34 to 34.5 degrees centigrade. So I did the sweat test. I did an hour exercise. After 1 hour exercise, this was my weight. It's 70.4 kilograms. Right? So what are the factors that we consider? The variables, the time, the intensity, which is recommended is moderate intensity, and the temperature. So what is the change in body weight? It's 600 grams, right? That's what I lost during the 1 hour run. So how much fluid did I consume? I consumed 500 ml of water only. So it's one bottle of water. Then sweat loss, how do you calculate sweat loss? Is change in body weight plus volume you consume or you ingest. So change of body weight is 600 plus 500 ml, that's equivalent to 1,100 ml, right? So now I know my sweat loss. That's sweat loss. Now I need to divide it into times or minutes. how many hours or how many minutes did I do? 60 minutes, which is equivalent to 1 hour. Okay, now what is my sweat rate now then? So sweat rate is sweat loss, which is 1,100 divided by the exercise time. So it's equivalent to 18 ml per minute, or 1,100 or 1.1 liters per hour. Well, how much did I consume? It's 500 ml. So that's why I was feeling dizzy. But immediately I drank water. Don't worry. I know how to handle this. So what I'm trying to say here, though practically speaking, you cannot replace 1,100 during race because we have other sources of water or liquids in the body. But it gives us an idea that during hard effort, during race day, at least I'll be consuming around more than 50% or 60, 70 max of this one. The maximum is 1 liter. That's the recommendation of the fluid or the sweat rate. So that's how you do it. So now you know how much fluid, because you need to train for this. Okay, moving along. Again, once again, if you want to have a copy, just message me. I'll give you a copy of my presentation.
Coach
Okay,
Jay,
okay, go
Coach
ahead.
Jay, Coach Jay, can you return it to the sweat rate calculator? Yeah.
Go ahead.
This one, you mentioned that the one that you lost is 1,100 ml per hour. Yeah.
Yes, that's the sweat loss. Sweat loss
Yes.
equivalent formula is change in body weight plus volume consumed is around 1,100 ml. So you divide it by the number of minutes.
And then your total sweat loss is 1,100 ml
Per hour.
per hour. Okay.
Yes, because
So,
here 18 ml per minute. So you just multiply it per minute because the formula is minute, right? And just 60 minutes. So you just multiply it or divide it by 1,100 divided by 60 minutes is equivalent to 18 ml per minute. So
technically speaking, you're missing 600 ml because you only took 500.
yes.
It will be given that you will adjust it during training, but I would just ask, if ever during the race, you know already your sweat rate, you know already how much you need to consume, but you don't feel anything, what would be your advice? Do you drink according to the one that you practice, or
You don't
how do
rely
you?
on others. This is what I'm always telling to. Good question, Coach B. David Quencho, because we'll give us some tips as well.
Yes.
On race day, one of the parameters, the data on the watts that I'm telling the guys or my athlete, it's either you use, especially on bike, for example, it's either you use your heart rate, you use your power, and at the bottom will be time. Why? Because I want you to take your fluids and your hydration and nutrition round the clock. I don't care whether you're feeling thirsty or not. If I will say after 15 minutes, you drink this certain ml, you drink it. I will discuss later about the gastric emptying, how to distribute the water. For example, if I will be drinking around 500 or 1,100 ml, I will not drink it one time. There is also a recommendation how to consume the water. Did I answer your question, Coach B?
Yes. Thank you so much, Coach Jay. Please go on.
Factors affecting fluid absorption. This is very important. There are two things here, gastric emptying and intestinal absorption. So gastric emptying is, let me just define it, is the rate of fluid and substrate out of the stomach. So how fast you will eliminate, remove, or consume the fluids. But there are some factors that affect, like for example, the gastric emptying. We're talking about a major factor to speed up gastric emptying involves maintaining a relatively high fluid volume in the stomach, right? Okay, Another factors that affect gastric emptying, you know, the concentration of fluids. Do you know how many glucose content of a Gatorade bottle and a Powerade bottle? The recommendation concentration of glucose is just around 4 to 8%. So have you ever checked that one? How much glucose concentration your sports drink, the sports drink that you're drinking, should be less than 4% glucose concentration. So what does it mean, for example? I'm relating this one. You know, during hydration and nutrition, we don't mix things because we're discussing about gastric emptying. For example, if you're drinking, if you're eating your GU gel, for example, you don't mix it with other sports drinks because the concentration, glucose concentration level will become higher, and it will affect your gastric emptying. So that will lead to gastrointestinal distress, right? So that's why when I'm telling them, let's apply it in the race day right now. So I told them, if you drink fluids, you drink water, that's good. But if you will take your GU gel that has some glucose concentration, at the same time, do not mix it with the isotonic, especially with glucose concentration, because the percentage will be there. It will affect the gastric emptying. So the more concentrated the fluid is, it will decrease the gastric emptying. So you will not absorb it. You will just, see the picture? You will just vomit it because of high glucose concentration. That's why strategically you don't mix two things at the same time. And at the same time as well, why is it? On the first explanation, maintaining a relative high fluid volume increase gastric emptying. That's why when you drink your energy gel, you follow it up with water, right? So that the absorption of that energy gel will be faster if you will flush it out with water. Okay, and this it's okay. Now it's clear. Moving along. Another factor that affects or decrease the gastric emptying, to avoid vomiting like this, or just to avoid, you know, those gels that you're eating just sitting in your stomach, is any exercise exceeding 75% of the VO2 max. Or I may translate it in a simple term, around zone 3, moderate aerobic. If you're doing your applied in a race, your half Ironman pace, right? Gastric emptying is decreased. So therefore, what does it mean to us? The higher the heart rate we have or we're giving, the less gastric emptying. So whatever, if your heart rate is too high, that's why I even recommend to my athlete, it is better that you try to relax on the time that you're about to take your nutrition, so that the gastric absorption or the absorption will be better and faster. Okay, moving along. Now that's it. Intestinal absorption is dependent on the absorption of the sodium content. Okay, so therefore, as having said, low to moderate amount of sodium increases fluid intestinal absorption. Okay, I'm sure everybody knows this. What is dehydration? Now we're discussing about dehydration now. What is dehydration? Right? Dehydration is when the fluid intake is insufficient to match the fluid loss during exercise. So let me just give you an example. What happens to, does everybody know this guy? The brothers. Okay.
But then less than 400 meters from the finishing line.
Let me just start.
Then less than 400 meters from the finishing line. Unbelievable Johnny Brownlee would start to find fatigue. He did not know where he was. And something that we've never seen before, Alistair Brownlee would help his brother to the finishing line. Henry Stuman, the two Brownlee brothers, trying to make their way to the finishing line with Richard Murray just seconds behind. And Alistair Brownlee would help the younger of the Brownlees in, push him across the line. It would be Johnny second, Alistair third.
Do you actually know that there was a scientific study done just for the purpose of knowing what happened to the Brownlee brothers, especially to Brownlee? And based on the study published or conducted by Luke McLeroy, Johnny suffered from heat exhaustion and dehydration. So what is dehydration then? It occurs, having said it occurs when fluid intake is insufficient to match the fluid loss during exercise. Like blood volume decreases to sweating, the amount of oxygenated blood in the heart. If you are dehydrated, so let me just put some simple explanation, some medical physiology on this. If you are dehydrated, what will happen is, remember the plasma? So if you are dehydrated, your heart will beat faster in order to provide blood to the working muscles, to your brain. But if you're dehydrated, the blood volume will be decreased. Therefore, there will be no enough oxygen-rich blood that will coming out from the heart and will reach your working muscles. Likewise, sweating. I did mention about sweating. What happens there? Sweating is our defense mechanism by the body to overheat, to avoid overheating. So the more, what happens during sweating, the blood will be pushed toward the skin so that sweating will take place. But if you are dehydrated already, there will be less blood that will go to the skin for you to sweat out, right? Because it's interconnected to each other. So again, what I'm trying to tell here, dehydration, it will result to higher heart rate. It will result to increase demands by the body, reduce the sweating. Therefore, you will suffer from dehydration. At the same time, what happened to Johnny is heat exhaustion. Okay, let's review what are the causes of dehydration. Causes, having said, if you're not drinking enough water, reduced blood volume, secondary to depletion of fluid intake. So these are the common dehydration. You can also have dehydration through vomiting, diarrhea, fever, and excessive sweat. So those are the causes. Who are the people at risk? Especially, who are the people at risk? Those endurance athletes, especially for those athletes who are working more than 3 hours for a long time, the mid-distance. They are more prone to severe dehydration. And people with had higher sweat rate. I have an athlete who really, even in less than 30 minutes, he may be losing already 1 liter of sweat. Of course, yes. So depends upon the patient or the athlete. So what are the signs and symptoms? I'm sure you know that. I'm sure everybody listening right now experience what does the signs and symptoms when the fluid in your body is reduced. You will feel thirst, flushed skin or red skin, right? What else? You may complain fatigue, right? How come you're tired right now? You will tell yourself. Increasing body temperature for obvious reason, right? Increasing RPE, if we will relate it to exercise. Have you ever experienced that one that I'm still running on my pace, the pace that I train, or the pace that I train on my training. But how come it's very hard for me? My RPE is so high right now because your heart rate is increasing. So there is a decreased capacity to exercise or exercise capacity. Some of other signs and symptoms like dizziness, I did mention why you feel dizzy. There is decreased blood supply to the brain. You have dark colored urine. You have cramps, weakness, labored breathing. Okay. What are the physiologic response? I did mention that there will be decreased blood volume going to the brain and going to the muscles. Your heart rate will increase, therefore your RPE will be increased. You will easily get tired if you will continue with your pace. For example, if you're targeting around less than 5 minutes per kilometer, right, in a half Ironman race or even 440, 435, you are well practiced on this pace, but it's hot, very humid. You're wondering, but your heart rate is shooting up. You cannot sustain the pace because of the effect of dehydration. Again, another effect of dehydration, increased this gastrointestinal distress due to delayed stomach emptying. And last one, increase in body temperature, right? Increase in, just hold on. What are the prevention and management then? So what do you need to do? Monitor and replenish fluids, create and customize or follow a customized hydration plan that you and your coach prepared. Then adjust the fluid intakes based on how you will train. You know, the sweat rate, you need to practice. You need to do your sweat rate separately on the bike, on the run, and even on the swim. You need to practice or do your sweat rate based on the temperature of the race course. It cannot be you are doing your sweat rate on 18 degrees and then you will be racing in 36 degrees centigrade. No, it cannot be like that. Okay. And next, a few more slides. Overhydration. What is overhydration, or we call it hyponatremia? Remember, I did tell you that sodium is one of the most important electrolytes for athletes. Sodium is the one that controls fluid movement. What is overhydration, or we call it hyponatremia? Hyponatremia occurs when blood sodium concentration became abnormally low, right? That will result, sodium level will become low, that can result to swelling of the brain, seizure, and coma. So what else? Although hyponatremia is also associated with prolonged exercise, it can also occur at rest when too much fluid intake too soon. So meaning what happens here during overhydration or hyponatremia, you know, there's one study, even one study in Ironman, when one athlete collapsed, when they measured him, he was 5 kilograms overweight from her pre-race weight. Because what happened, she kept on drinking water, plain water. So it diluted the sodium contents in her body, in her cell. That's why he suffered from hyponatremia, which is detrimental. Because it can lead you to swelling of the brain, can lead to seizure and coma. So now we put us in the position. Now you're telling us, Coach Jay, that not drinking water is not good. Then also drinking too much water is also not good, right? So that's why the solution to that is you monitor your heart, you monitor your sweat rate, try to have your sweat rate measured, and so that you will give you an idea how much fluid that you will consume in your training or in your race day. So now we have two definitions or two wordings here. We mentioned about dehydration. We mentioned also about hyponatremia. Now we have one medical terminology. We call it hyponatremic dehydration. This is the worst scenario. You are dehydrated already, but at the same time, your sodium content or level in the blood or in your body is very low. So this is very dangerous medical condition. You need to stop racing. and consult or seek medical advice. I forgot to mention regarding sweat rate calculation. What we are measuring in the sweat rate calculation is the amount, the volume or the amount of fluids to be consumed. But we did not mention about the sodium concentration that you need to have, which can only be done in the laboratory or blood workout. So it only gives us in the sweat rate calculation, please note, though in sweat rate calculation, it only gives us the amount of fluid that we will use to replace the fluid loss during training, but it doesn't say to us how much sodium content or sodium concentration that we need to put to our body. I gave you some recommendation, but the actual sodium concentration loss varies from one person to another. So that concludes my presentation. So if you have any question, just email me on my Jaynald@canaria@mail.com. You can even look for me on my Facebook or Instagram. I'm hoping I explain it the best or the simplest way. Having said there are too many technical words that we cannot escape, I'm hoping I've just explained it in the simple way.
Coach
Thank
Jay,
you. Go ahead.
thank you very much for that nice presentation about the hydration. Definitely one of the most important aspect when it comes to triathlon racing. And I think I would consider it equal to the three disciplines, mainly the combination of the nutrition and the hydration itself, equal to the three disciplines. No matter how good you are in the swim, bike, and run, if you don't have the proper nutrition plus the hydration as well, you'll definitely have some problems. Moving on, I would like to give you the first question before I can ask Coach Joyette and Coach Moy.
Okay.
This actually comes from our friends from Australia, Anna Marie, the Killshaws. She's listening to us. Regards to you guys. She asked about salt tabs. So how do you practice using it? Do you dilute it in the water or you just take it as a tablet?
Thank you, Ann, for watching and for that question. Personally, I don't dilute salt tab. Depends upon what kind of salt or brands that you use. Because I use salt stick that I don't dilute. What I'm doing, if I'm racing in a hot and humid environment, Q15, I'm using salt stick. Q30 minutes, I'm using my GU gel. That's the way how I do it. So automatically in my system, because I don't have to even watch on my time, monitor on my time. I do monitor, but it is already a default from my side that Q15, I'm taking one salt tablet. 15 and 45, sorry, 15. So this is how it goes. 15 minutes, after 15 minutes, I'm taking salt tablet. Equivalent to 200 milligrams, one salt tablet. 30 minutes, I'm taking my GU gel. GU gel plus with water. 45 minutes, I'm taking my salt stick again. Right? Then 1 hour, 60 minutes, I'm taking my GU gel. So that's the sequence of what I'm doing. It reminds me of one question that one discussion or one reminder that I forgot. It is recommended, for example, if you calculated your fluid already, that how much fluid you will be consuming, 750, 500, depends. I am dividing it into three, actually four. I don't drink whether I'm thirsty, just like what I said. 0 minutes, I'm drinking water. Depends whether how hot it is. Sometimes I'm doing every 10 minutes, automatic, I'm sipping. Instead of drinking 500 ml 2 times only, wherein I'll drink 30 minutes 250, I'll drink the next 30 minutes 250. No, depends upon how hot the environment is. Because I know if my heart rate's too high and it is hot and humid environment, my heart rate by default, if I will try to catch up with my pace, it will be too high by default. So what I did, 10 minutes I drink water, every 10 I'm doing, instead of 15. In a normal race, in a normal race course, I do it every 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
I can't remember exactly. I think you will be able to help me on this one. On our Ironman certified coach, they've mentioned about that. I think they estimated that around 250 to 350 per the one that we need to take per 10 to 15 minutes. I'm not
15 minutes.
250
15
to
minutes.
300 to 350. And they've also mentioned on the course that the gulp that you need around 2 to 4 gulps. I cannot remember exactly the
Don't
the
you know
proper.
that, because she's asking about dilution, don't you know that I even count how many gulps,
Yes, yes.
how many times I will gulp in 500 ml? I'm
Yeah.
counting that one. I memorized it already. For me, it's 10 pulps, 10 gulps.
10 gulps, huh? Because in the course, I think it was mentioned. I'm not sure if it's 2 to 4.
The reason why I'm telling that
Gulps
to
per 10 to 15 minutes.
yes. Some athletes, Coach Bernard, they are diluting their energy gel in the bottle. I'm doing that one also. For example, if I'll be consuming, now we're going to hydration and nutrition. But anyway, if I'll be consuming around 10 GU gel in a full distance Ironman race, for example, I need to know how to evenly distribute it. Right? If I diluted the 10 GU gel in one bottle, I need to know how many times do I need to gulp, one gulp. So if I know if it is one gulp one gulp. If I have 10 gulps in one bottle, I will have an idea now that one gulp is equivalent to 1 GU gel. But I make secret that I shake it first. So one gulp, that's 1 GU gel, I'm done. I'll wait for the next 30 minutes. Another 30 minutes, one gulp.
Yes.
That's my second GU gel. That makes it to it you a little bit or shake it first.
So
okay?
that's a very nice thing to remember, especially for our beginners in the intermediate level. So Coach Moy, we have a question earlier coming from JB Serrano.
Yes, Coach.
So can you give us and share your thoughts about overcoming the fear of swimming in a dark open water? This is a very nice question. So dark open water, maybe in the lakes also, especially you don't see anything. What are the things that you can do to improve your confidence when it comes to swimming on this type of environment in the swim?
Thank you for that question. Thank you for JV. Thank you for watching. I always encountered that question, Coach, because there are two kinds of fear. The one that you can practice and the one it takes a little while. Those who actually fear in open water, or what I mean for those who have fear in not seeing the bottom, some of them encounter drowning in the future, and that takes a little while. Even in practice, even in frequent practice in an open water with a group, still they have this fear. So that we can take out from the equation, which means it will take a longer time for them to really adapt and be comfortable in the open water. But swimming in places where you can see the bottom is just more on I call it engage yourself. You just have to do it in order for you to actually take out that fear. When there are people who get comfortable faster, there are people take a little while. So, but the key there is to just engage yourself more often if you have time to go to the open water, so that it gives you a good experience. I think the goal is to have a good experience so that you make yourself comfortable. Even me, who been swimming open water quite sometimes, there are some areas which I also feel, which I also get afraid, especially if I'm swimming alone. But because I had a lot of good experience already, I just tell myself that just a usual thing that I see in the open water. Unless if you see a shark in the open water, that is not usual. You have to go out faster as you can. So
The exposure is really important when it comes to this. I think you
yes,
can only
coach.
get confidence when you are already used to it.
Yes, I think that's the only way and the fastest way to make yourself comfortable in this type of training and racing conditions.
Mhm. Going to Coach Joyette. Coach Joyette, there's a question also. This came from our friends from Australia too, from Anna Marie Kilshaw. So how much time do you allot for strength and conditioning? I think this is a good question when it comes to your marathon experience and your triathlons also.
Yeah. So I'm actually a bar 3 instructor. So I teach bar, which is sort of strength and conditioning. It's a fitness class, right? So we work on specific more like dynamic stretches and things like this. So when I was training and racing hard, I did maybe 3 times a week of classes. But now that I'm more I'm not racing as much. So I can recommend actually doing more strength work on the off season. So in fact, I do a lot more now, especially as I age. And then kasama na yung age, right? Yeah, so I think the best way to incorporate strength training, you can do it in the afternoons. Let's say you did a long run in the morning, then in the afternoon you can do strength work or something like that. But definitely, obviously you can't, let's say, lift weights or do heavy stuff on the upper body if you have a big swim tomorrow and things like this, right? So you want to make it balanced also and triathlon specific, or definitely it should be complementary to what you're doing. So to me, 3 times a week doesn't would help, but it really depends on your objectives. When I was I mean, if you don't have time to train and you're doing an Ironman, then instead of spending time on strength and conditioning, I would suggest work on the specific sports, right? Like the specific disciplines. If you only have, let's say, 10 hours a week to train, might as well dedicate these 10 hours to swimming, biking, and running. But if you have more time, then definitely it wouldn't hurt. And then not much during race season already. Let's say 2 weeks in or 2 weeks before the race. Just don't overdo it. Just like in anything, don't overdo.
Second to that, I mean, as we grow, as we age, S&C is very, very important and very vital for us to continue improving on triathlon. No,
Yes.
Coach Jaynald, we have a question coming from one of the listeners. Drinking milk, after the race to rehydrate. What are your thoughts?
Drinking milk.
After the race to rehydrate. So
First and foremost, you should be lactic intolerance. Okay, so you need to check. So if you don't have any problem with drinking milk, as long as there's specific carbohydrate contents, the protein contents in the milk, I don't see any problem. Though I'm not a avid fan of milk, I would rather drink chocolate milk. It contains carbohydrates and proteins, minerals, and calories, which is more complete. I will do that one.
Coach, how about drinking beer
Beer.
after race or training?
during the race.
Can I answer that one unofficially? Anyway, okay. always drink moderately. Everything everything in excess is not good. But
Mhm.
they said beer has some alcohol content that penetrates the cell
In
itself,
in
easily
in
absorbed.
the in European circuits, there are actually
Yes.
races that uses beer, and it makes sense because majority of the components of beer is carbohydrates. So I think you can use it, but don't sacrifice the overall
Fitness level,
hydration plan that you have.
the effect level.
Yeah, because it's carbohydrate, so basically you can use it. Coach
Any-
Moy,
Mhm.
Coach Moy, question from our friends from FitQ, Darwin Bonagua.
Yes, sir. Thank
Citing relative to stroke. What is your advice on it? Citing relative to stroke.
on when do you cite in relative to your stroke?
So how
Yeah.
many strokes?
How
Do you have
often?
any recommendation on the volume of the strokes? I mean, this is a very important thing also.
Okay, so first is when to cite and how many strokes when you need to cite. So normally when you're or when you're a right beater, you normally cite when you strike on your left arm. So that's the timing. When we go into the timing, it should be on the opposite on your beating, because that's in on the particular citing skill that I teach. I timing the breathing opposite. I timing the breathing on the opposite hand of your breathing side. So if I breathe on the right, I should timing my sighting on my left when I strike my left. If you can see in the video, actually, video is actually available online. Just search it with my name and game plan. You can actually see the video. So it's a good video to see or to know when if you want to timing your hand and your sighting and you're bringing your head forward. Number of stroke on when to do the sighting. Normally 4 to 8 stroke, but depending on water condition, and depending if you're swaying, if you're within the course of the course. The reason why you sight, because you want to know where you're going. If you're actually within the or you're actually not going outside the course, you don't need actually to sight. That's my recommendation, because it disturbs actually the whole mechanics of your swimming. The only thing that you sight because you want to make sure that you're not actually going away. That's why I make the best advice in order for you to lessen sighting is to find someone who sight and follow him or her.
Draft.
Yes, drafting. That's one of my tips and my key when I do open water. I always find someone who actually sights all the time. So I just take a few sighting, see if he's actually doing it well, and if so, I just follow him or her. So 4 to 8 stroke would be a good one.
Okay.
For me, Coach Moy, I normally go near the rosary or the buoy, because
That's a good thing.
throughout the swim leg there is a buoy.
Buoy line.
Strategy also.
When
That's
you
the
breathe,
best. That's the best area press, because that's the shortest way to complete the course. But everyone is there.
Yeah.
Coach J.
Go ahead.
Coach J, actually the Coach Sol is have contributed and shared his thoughts earlier in the one that we are talking.
Yes.
So he mentioned
Let's see it. I'm just reading it now.
yeah, that 275 ml every 15 minutes. This is the one that we're talking about earlier.
Yes.
One big gulp is roughly 50 ml, so this is good. And 4 to 5 big gulps every 15 minutes. Thank you for that, Coach Sol. I just read it now.
But still, Coach Sol, I am personally recommending to do it by themselves. I may have a bigger mouth than yours. So that's a rough estimate. I agree with you.
Yes.
But you need to do it personally.
Yes,
For
during practice, so during training rin, coach, of course. You have
Yes.
to train, the gut is a muscle, so you have to train the gut to accommodate that much fluid.
Agree. Totally.
It's a trainable muscle.
Yes.
Coach Joyette.
Muscle, yes.
Coach Joyette, I'll be asking you a question about nutrition. Do you have what are your thoughts on your run, race nutrition and triathlon run nutritions? So do you have any different strategy that you do when you're just doing run race or and compared to your triathlon races?
So to me, I found this product that I really like, and it's good on the stomach, which I use for cycling and also before cycling. So it's called Tailwind, if you've heard. So Tailwind is good because it already has calories, so you don't need, and electrolytes, so you don't need two separate drinks, and you mix it with water and you sip on it. So it works for me. It's very easy on the stomach. Parang I've had issues before sa first Ironman ko pagdating sa when I got to the run, I was having stomach issues. So this one is very easy on the stomach. But I find that because it's mixed in your water bottle on the run, then it's not so practical to carry a flask. So I still take gels on the run. So having said that, sa marathon, I also mix a bit of both. I have Tailwind for like in a small flask, but as insurance, I have Tailwind. I still have gels, and also another very pwede naman mag-promote, diba?
Yes,
Very
yes,
good
yes,
product
please, go on.
I found is Cramp Fix. So it's in a sayang, I didn't know that I was gonna be asked, so I should have prepared. So it comes in a small sachet like this. So Cramp Fix is good for cramping naman. So especially in let's say in an Ironman, it's good to have like as an insurance. I'm not a cramper, but I know a lot of my athletes are, and it works for them. And to me, in an Ironman, sometimes you're just sick of all of the available ones, right? So I just take a shot of the Cramp Fix just to avoid any cramping, and it works. So so those are my take. But yeah, always I still have gels for insurance on race day as insurance, but for training just Tailwind.
Very
Honestly.
particular when it comes to nutrition. I've observed that because even Coach Matt, just to share it to you guys, Coach Matt, I know some of his athletes is really very particular when it comes to nutrition. So, Coach Moy, I think this question also goes for you, the one that I asked with Coach Joyette earlier.
Yes, coach.
How much time do you allot when it comes to strength and conditioning for improvement of open water swim?
So I remember, coach, when I was still in college, because in swimming, since the sport itself, coach, has its own advantage in terms of strength and conditioning. But normally, you can actually incorporate strength and conditioning during the training itself. That's why most of the swimmers or probably age groupers don't really have that keen to do a separate SNC for swim. But just I remember, coach, just to tell you a bit of an idea, when I was in college, we actually incorporate SNC because my coach in college is Olympian. So they already incorporate SNC, separate SNC for swim. But they only do one SNC every week. The reason for that is swimming, as you do SNC, the muscles tighten, which means it's tighten to get stronger. But as a swimmer, you need to lose that muscle, which means to soften it up. Because if not, you easily get cramps in the water. That's why
muscle is heavier than fat also.
Yes, that's why most of the swimmers are actually, if they see them get bigger, when you touch their muscles, as softer. So I do recommend to have SNC probably one or the maximum of two in a week, because you can actually do an SNC specifically to the movement itself during your sessions, which means you can do puddles. You can make it a little bigger. For specific muscles that are not targeted during the training, probably you can add it on a special SNC session where a PT can help you with that, because there are small muscles that need to be strengthened, particularly swimming, that cannot be strengthened during the training itself. But majority, the bigger muscles, can actually be addressed during the training itself. That's the reason why that it's good that most of the S and C actually done in the water. I mean, done during your training itself.
I just thought of this when you guys, when you and Coach Joyette were answering about the SNC on run and the swim. I think also we can give some of our thoughts about this question. Not going to make an issue out of this thing, but I think it's a good info. We have lots of friends about. Coach Sol is here also. Coach Sol, can you contribute? We have lots of friends right now. Trending is CrossFit when it comes to training. Even for triathletes, CrossFit they use it. So, what are your thoughts, Coach Jay, Coach Joyette, Coach Moy, Coach Sol? If you're you can answer also. CrossFit and triathlon.
We'll give it to Coach Sol. Coach, maybe you can contribute, Coach.
I think CrossFit and triathlon might be useful. Definitely for like the name itself, it's CrossFit, so cross training. Definitely
Cross training, variation.
Yep, but I don't think in terms of specificity,
Yes.
it will help. There's a place of CrossFit in tactical athletes like the military, police, or maybe in like metabolic demanding sports like OCR. But I think on a steady state type and overuse injury prone sport like triathlon or endurance sports, I'm not completely sold for that purpose. But of course, the sport itself is developing, including CrossFit has developed immensely throughout the years. I think there's a place if it's gonna be tweaked. And definitely for me, for sports like for example, Coach Moy and I have worked with POSF. Our coach, our strength coach there is mainly focused on this type. It's benefiting our athletes. But maybe on long distance triathlon, I think in the off season it will help. But during maybe some tweaks on that aspect. Definitely functional training for me would still be beneficial on a performance, injury management, and injury prevention standpoint. Those are my opinions, of course, personal opinions.
Agree.
Coach Jay.
Seconding that one, Coach Saul, functional performance or training, yes, I will. But depends upon which phase of the race or the off season, or if it is off season, well, why not? As long as they, when you are in the racing month, just like what Coach Saul said, I would rather be specific training or be specific. You know me. I go more on specificity wherein if I want to do some leg workout, I would rather, instead of hitting the gym, I will do a low cadence. That's my technique. I'll do my low cadence workout on the bike, especially on the competition month already. And if it is a swim, right, I will go for paddles. So different techniques, different approaches by the stroke, the way how do they believe it. But instead of doing nothing and yes, why not CrossFit, cross training with other sports? But depends, for me, it depends which phase of, I call it the macrocycle, which phase of the microcycle you want to put them in. That's my comment.
So I've tried it once last year. I remember I was preparing for the North Pole Marathon and I went because I was offered coaching. So I talked to the trainer and I said, I'm willing to give it a try, but what are the benefits first, right? Because this is what I'm gonna do. How is it gonna help me? And she gave me this talk on how we get a lot of triathletes here, and she name dropped. And I'm like, rolled my eyes and said, you and I both know they're posers. And because I was talking to a trainer who's who was also a triathlete. And then this person also said, well, it will also increase your anaerobic. And I was like, I'm doing an aerobic sport. I mean, an event, right? Why do I want to increase my anaerobic? So that's it. So that I guess also the trainer that I was given was asking me all these questions. And I looked at him and I'm like, I'm fitter than you. Why are you giving me these things? Why are you telling me that I should work on these things? You know what I mean? So I guess it's different. Diba? Parang definitely it's different. Of course, we respect them. But for our sport, I guess for triathlon, you can try and see for yourself. So that's my take. But yeah, definitely stick to the basics. We already have 3 disciplines to train for. So that's it. It's already a lot as it is. So why would you want to keep adding? Let's keep it simple.
I think this is good questions from you guys. Thank you so much for sharing. Wox, do you have some more questions? I think we can wrap it up, yeah?
Yeah, one last question before we let them go. So I think this is for Coach Jay. This is from Mike Baclo. So Coach Jay, so how is it when you, after the training or racing, when you want to really drink a lot, still when you're very thirsty, how to know if it's too much to avoid the being overhydrated?
Yeah, just like what I said, if you need to, first and foremost, the thirst mechanism will be there, definitely, especially when the finish is ready, when your race is finished, right? Wherein on the time that you will be relaxed. If I may correlate again we call it the parasympathetic effect of the body. The only time you will feel you're so thirsty, you're so hungry, it's when you are on the parasympathetic state, when you are in the relaxed mode. So this is the challenge for us as triathletes or endurance athletes. The only time you can eat, you cannot eat when you are racing. You cannot eat, you cannot drink much when you are your heart rate is high, right? But we do practice for it. The only time you feel you're hungry, the only time you feel thirsty, when everything settles down. So you will be prone to overhydration or hyponatremia. Remember that Ironman girl, lady? She gained 5 kilograms instead of losing 5 kilograms. Because what she did, she kept on drinking water. So going back to that, I would rather recommend, I did mention it before, I would rather recommend sport drinks that has electrolyte contents, not just plain water. There is a recommendation for us on my lecture. If it is 1 kilogram, you can replace it with 1.5 liters of water, right? In my presentation, 1 kilogram loss during the race, you recommended after the race is 1.5 liters. So if you're feeling thirsty, perhaps this is the time you consider not plain water, maybe electrolytes. So to prevent hyponatremia. I hope I answered that question. I forgot who asked that question, but I'm hoping I answered that question. Thank you.
Coach Moy, parting
Coach-
shots about open water swim in triathlon.
Okay, so I think I just want to highlight the earlier question, which if you have fear in open water, and I think this will be the first hindrance of everyone. First, you have to develop the skill first, or know how to swim first. Because if you're not afraid in open water and you don't know how to swim, you still endanger yourself. So build the form, build your threshold. If you can want to add VO2 shots at the end, that will be great. In the pool, which means in a controlled state first. Then create a group, or if not, find a place where you're safe. Probably bring in open water buoy if you want to train on your own. Medical kit if you have. Probably bring your phone as well with you, just in case you might need help, which we don't want to happen to you. and build that usual engagement. Bring that, build that love in the open water without seeing at the bottom. I think that's everyone challenge. Even for seasoned open water swim, there are few times still that we still fear of not seeing the bottom. So it's normal. It's normal to have that fear, but you can actually make it an advantage, or you can actually bring that love of open water and not having a hindrance, not having this as a hindrance of doing this discipline or training for this kind of discipline for everyone.
Thank you so much, Coach Moy. Coach Joyette, some parting shots about your topic, the triathlon run.
As I said, triathlon is triathlon. It consists of 3 disciplines. So running is the simplest, but it's also, I shall say, the hardest, because we get to the run tired already. But there's so many things we can work on. Also adding, it's something that's easier to work on, I would say, than even swimming or cycling, which is more technical. So you can make, I'm not saying lots, but you can make it more enjoyable. You can make easy goals as easy as just finishing the run fresh. So that means you're getting fitter on the run. Definitely adding dimensions like treadmill will increase your cadence, negative splits, teaching the body to go faster instead of going slower. This also works across all. I do even negative splits on the swim and the bike. What else? Try not to listen to music. Just be more mindful of the body. Be more connected to yourself. Have more control of your body. Really just enjoy. You want longevity in this sport. You don't want to burn out easily. Let's keep things simple. Don't be too consumed by it. So I guess that's it.
Thank you so much, Coach Joyette. And we hope that you'll be able to come and join us on our upcoming episodes.
Sure, if you'll still have me.
Coach Jaynald, any parting shots about your dehydration and overhydration topic? Coach Jaynald, I'll unmute you.
Okay, sorry. Proper hydration is the most important aspect of healthy physical activities. Dehydration, we defined what dehydration is. It can affect your performance, you can affect your health, not only your health, but as well as your performance. So you need to consume the right amount of fluids during or before, during, and after your race. And you need to have your nutritional plan. You don't go out there using a generic nutritional or hydration plan, right? You need to know, you need to plan for it based on what kind of race course, what is the temperature, and what is your specific sweat rate or fluids requirements. So again, replenishing fluids and electrolytes can prevent dehydration. Thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you so much, guys. Another essential triathlon discussions that we had. So we still have the next episode, on the episode 8, we will be having some good conversations again. Coach Walks?
Yes, it's a good day again for us to thank. I would like to thank all our resource speaker for today, Coach Moy and Coach Joyette. Coach Jay, thank you very much for your time and for sharing all your knowledge to us. So There's a lot of appreciation and new ideas that comes. So hopefully we can have you again here on the TriTalk series. So thank you and good night to all of you.
Thank you also.
Coach, yeah,
Thank you
Coach
also for our
Joyette, thank you.
listeners.
Coach Burns, thank you. Press Walks.
See you
Thank
again next week.
you.
Coach
Thanks,
Sean,
guys.
Coach Jay.
Everyone for having me.